And when the sixth night had come, Shaharzad said, "It is related, O auspicious king, that the fisherman said to the Ifrit, if you had preserved me I would now preserve you, but, as you wished my death, I shall throw you into the sea and leave you to die, imprisoned in this jar." Then the Ifrit cried, "For the love of Allah, do not do this thing. Release me, out of your generosity, not blaming me too much for what I did. If I was evil, be thou good. Does not the proverb say, he who requites a fault with kindness at the same time pardons the evil? Do not to me as Uman did to Atika." "What was their story?" asked the fisherman. "This jar is no place for telling tales in," answered the Ifrit. "When you let me out I will tell you what happened between them." "No, no," said the fisherman, "I must cast you into the sea, so that you shall never come up out of it again. For, by your way of treating me, I know that you come of an evil race." But the Ifrit cried, "Release me, and I will not only tell you the story, but I will promise never to do you hurt and, moreover, I will bring you into the way of great riches." Then the fisherman trusted him and, being assured of his good faith, after making him swear in the name of Allah, opened the jar. Out rose the smoke from the jar and again became an Ifrit of immortal ugliness, who with a mighty kick sent the jar flying out to sea. When he saw the jar disappearing in the water, the fisherman piddled his garments in an ecstasy of fear, saying, "This is no good sign." Then to reassure himself he thus addressed the Jinne, "Allah the Most High has said, O Ifrit, stand by your oaths or I will call you to account. You both promised and swore that you would not harm me. Be certain, then, that if you do harm me, Allah will punish you, for he is a jealous God and if he bides his time yet does he not forget. Remember I said to you, as Rayyan the physician said to King Yunan, spare me, and Allah shall spare you." At these words the Ifrit burst out laughing and walked away, telling the fisherman to follow him. Still in uncertainty the fisherman walked behind, and in this order they left the city behind till it was out of sight and, climbing a mountain, came down over the other side into a great deserted valley, in the middle of which was a lake. Here the Ifrit stopped and ordered the fisherman to cast his net, and the latter, looking down into the water, saw fish, white, red, blue, and yellow, swimming about in it. Marveling at this sight, he cast his net and caught 4 fish, each of a different color. As he was rejoicing at his good fortune, the Ifrit said, "Take these fish to the Sultan's palace and he will make you a rich man. In the meantime, I must ask you to excuse me, I fear I have forgotten my manners during my long sojourn below the sea, never looking upon the land for 1800 years. I advise you to come and fish here every day, but only once a day. Finally, Allah be good to you, and farewell." With this the Ifrit stamped both his feet against the earth, which opened and swallowed him up. Marveling at all that had befallen him, the fisherman returned towards the city and, coming to his house with the fish, filled an earthen pot with water and placed them in it. When they began to swim about in the water, he put the pot upon his head and walked with it to the palace, as the Ifrit had told him. When the fisherman came into the presence of the king and offered him the fish, the king, who had never seen the like either in size or color, marveled exceedingly and commanded that they should be given to the black cookmaid. You must know that the slave had been given him as a present 3 days before by the king of R*M, and that so far he had had no occasion to sample her cookery. So the wazir took the fish to the cookmaid and told her to fry them, adding, "Excellent negress, the king my master sent you this message. I have reserved you specially, O tear of mine, for some great day. Give us proof, now, of your excellence with the cookpots and the luxury of your dishes, for today the Sultan entertains one who brings gifts to him." Then the wazir returned to the king, who ordered him to give the fisherman 400 dinars. Having received this sum, the fisherman placed it in the tail of his robe and returned contentedly to his wife at home. We will leave him buying all manner of necessities for his children. In the meanwhile the cookmaid cleaned the fishes, put them in the pan and, when they were well cooked on one side, turned them over. But suddenly the wall of the kitchen opened and through it entered a young and slender girl with full smooth cheeks and delightful features. Her eyelids were darkened with black kohl and her body bent daintily with the weight of her breasts. On her head she wore a kerchief of blue silk from which her hair escaped about her ears, she had gold bracelets round her wrists, and on her fingers rich and colored stones sparkled from rings. She came forward to the fire and, thrusting a bamboo wand she carried in her hand into the pan, said, "Fish, fish, are you faithful?" Seeing this the cookmaid fainted away, and the young girl repeated her question a second and third time. Then all the fish lifted their heads from inside the pan and cried, "Yes, yes, we are." Then in chorus they intoned these lines: "Come back and so will we. Keep faith and we'll keep faith, but if you show us treachery, it shall be to your scathe." At these words the young girl upset the pan and passed out by the way she had come, the wall of the kitchen coming together again after her. When the cookmaid came out of her swoon, she saw that the 4 fishes had fallen into the fire and been burned to black cinders. And calling out, "Oh," even at the first assault his vigor ebbed away, she continued to lament until the wazir came back and told her to carry the fishes to the Sultan. At this the cookmaid burst into tears, and told the wazir all that had happened. The wazir, utterly amazed at the strangeness of the thing, sent for the fisherman and commanded him to bring 4 other fishes of the same kind. So the fisherman made his way to the mountain lake and, casting his net, brought 4 more fish to land. These he took to the wazir who, in his turn, took them to the cookmaid and said, "Stir yourself now and fry these in my presence, that I may see what there is in this story of yours." The negress cleaned the fish and set them in a pan on the fire, but hardly had she done so when the wall opened and the young girl appeared a second time, dressed as before and still holding the wand in her hand. She thrust the wand into the pan, saying, "Fish, fish, are you faithful?" Whereupon the fishes lifted their heads and intoned these lines in chorus: "Come back and so will we. Keep faith and we'll keep faith, but if you show us treachery, it shall be to your scathe." At this point Shaharzad saw the approach of morning and discreetly fell silent. And when the 7th night had come, she said, "It is related, O auspicious king, that when the fishes spoke in this manner the young girl upset the pan with her wand and departed by the fissure in the wall, which closed after her. This is a thing that we can in no wise keep from the king," exclaimed the wazir, so he sought out the king and told him the whole circumstances. "This is a thing that I must see for myself," cried the king and, sending for the fisherman, he commanded him to fetch 4 other fish of the like kind, allowing him 3 days in which to complete the matter. But the fisherman hurried to the lake and came back immediately with 4 more fish, for which he was given 400 dinars at the king's command. Then the king ordered his wazir to prepare the fish himself in the royal presence. "I hear and I obey," answered the wazir, and, conducting the king to the kitchen, he carefully cleaned the fish and, in the king's sight, set them in the pan to fry. When they were cooked on one side, he turned them. Immediately the kitchen wall opened and through it entered a negro, as ugly as a great buffalo or one of the giants of the tribe of Had. He carried a green branch in his hand and said in a distinct and terrible voice, "Fish, fish, are you faithful?" Then all the fish lifted their heads from inside the pan and cried, "Yes, yes, we are," and in chorus they intoned these lines: "Come back and so will we. Keep faith and we'll keep faith, but if you show us treachery, it shall be to your scathe." Then the negro came up to the pan and upset it with his branch, so that the fish fell out and were burned to black cinders. Finally he departed by the way he had come, and the king said, "Here is a matter on which it is impossible to keep silent. Surely there is some strange tale connected with these fishes." So he sent for the fisherman and asked him where the fishes came from. "From a lake between 4 hills," he answered, "behind the mountain which looks down upon your city." "How many days' journey is it?" asked the king. "My lord, it is not more than half an hour away," the other answered. So the sultan set out forthwith, taking his soldiers with him, and also the fisherman, who went along in a confused state of mind, secretly cursing the Ifrit. At length the king's party passed over the mountain and came down into a desert valley, such as they had never seen before. They marveled at it, and at the lake, and at the fish of different colors, red, white, yellow and blue, which swam within it. Halting his men, the king asked if anyone there had ever seen a lake in that place, and, when all answered that they had not, he said, "As Allah lives, I will never more go back to my city or sit upon my throne until I have found out the truth about this lake and these strange fishes." Then, sending out his men to inspect the mountains round about, he called his wazir to him, who was a scholar and a sage, an eloquent man of great learning. To him the king said, "There is a thing that I mean to do and I must tell you of it. I have determined to go forth alone tonight and seek out unaided the answer to the mystery of this lake. Your part will be to stand guard at the door of my tent and tell any wazirs, amirs, or chamberlains who may seek audience, that I am ill and have given order that none may be admitted. Above all, tell no one of my plan." The wazir promised to obey, and the king, having disguised himself and girt on his sword, slipped out unperceived from among his bodyguard. All that night and through the next morning he journeyed on, stopping only to sleep through the noonday heat. Then he continued his quest throughout the rest of that day and the following night. On the second morning he saw a black object far off and joyfully exclaimed, "Surely yonder I shall find someone to tell me the story of the lake." Coming nearer, he saw that the thing was a palace, built all of black stones fastened together with great clamps of steel. Stopping at the mighty double door, one half of which was open, he knocked softly, once, twice, and again, without receiving any answer. The fourth time, he knocked with great violence and still no one came. So, supposing the palace to be deserted, he plucked up his courage and entered. "O masters of this palace, I am a stranger, a wayfarer, and I come to ask a little refreshment in my journey." He repeated this twice more and, getting no reply, became emboldened to go along the corridor as far as the very center of the palace. Here he found no one, though all the place was splendid with star-wrought tapestries and, in the middle of the inner court, 4 lions of red gold held up a fountain, spraying so fair a water that it had the appearance of diamonds and white pearls. About the court were many birds, which could not fly away because of a great golden net stretched above the palace. The king marveled at all these things, and yet he grieved in his heart to find no one there who could explain the riddle of the lake, the mountain, the fish, and the palace. Soon he sat down between 2 of the doors in a profound reverie, which was suddenly cut short by a feeble voice of complaint, rising it seemed from a surcharged heart. He heard these lines sung in a sweet whisper. "I could not keep love down. He rose and pinned my sleepy eyes awake, he crept into my voice and made it break my heart, and made it ache. I could not keep love down. He rose and lighted fires within my brain, and all the waters of the world are vain to put them out again." Moving towards the sound of this low plaining, the king found a door covered by a curtain. Lifting the curtain, he saw a young man lying upon his elbow on a great bed in a mighty hall. He was fair and supple, dowered with the very voice of music, his brow was like a flower, and his cheeks like the flowers of roses. Also, on one of these cheeks there lay a mole like a fragment of black amber. The poet has said, "Sweet and slim is the boy, with hair of shadows paling the night and a brow of light, making the stars seem gray. My eyes have turned his way and found a joy, of which I dare not speak, in a nut-brown beauty spot which he has got below his dark eye on his rose-leaf cheek." The king rejoiced at the sight of the young man and said to him, "Peace be with you." But the youth, who wore a robe of golden embroidered silk, did not move from his position on the bed, and it was with great sorrow both of voice and feature that he greeted the king, saying, "Excuse me, my lord, for not rising." Thereupon the king said, "Tell me, O fair young man, the story of the lake and the colored fishes, and also the reason of this palace and of your solitude and your tears." At these words the youth wept even more sorely and answered, "What is there in the evil fate that has come upon me that I should not weep?" So saying, he moved his thin hand towards the skirts of his garment and lifted them away from his body. Then the king saw that the lower half of this youth was all of marble, while the upper half of his body, from his navel to the hair upon his head, remained that of a man. As he stood there astonished, the young man said to him, "You must know, my lord, that the tale of the fishes is indeed a strange tale. Were it written with a bodkin on the inner corner of an eye, yet would it be a lesson for a man of mind." And the youth told this story.